Hey, this is David Wolinsky back with another interview from the audio archives of Don't Die. This time I'm bringing to you the first half of my conversation with Adam Kid Drucker, aka Doseone, who's a rapper, producer, and game composer. We spoke on June 26, 2016. If you'd like to read a full transcript of this conversation, please check the link down below in the description. And also, down there you'll see a link to my Patreon, where your support helps me continue with this project. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Adam Doseone Drucker. I am 39 years young. I live in sunny fucking Oakland, California. And let's see, in 1997, I put out my first long-playing recording on vinyl called Hemispheres. Shortly after that, I met all these other dudes that were like-minded, sort of off-beat rap-making motherfuckers. We all met via tape trading right before the internet became itself. So all of these guys sort of people that knew each other, but out of that formed Anticon, which was about almost like 15 people in the beginning, but then came down to a core of about 7 human beings. And we formed a label and all moved from our middle of nowheres out to the Bay Area and started making music both separately and together in different pairings and as solo artists. And then that went on. I did a bunch of albums. I guess I did over 20 albums in 10 years on various major labels, minor labels. I experienced everything from tape trading to like the beginning of indie distribution and trying to get a distributor in P&D, and then all the way up to like the new record I'm doing. We're not even making CDs because it's the new future. And so it's really, I've lived through pretty much the heyday of independent music. And then several years ago, in order to pay off debts from selfless independent music making, not like fun debts like cocaine, Ferrari, hula skirt debts, but like solemn grocery store, you can't put rent on a credit card, but various things that kept me going over the years. So it became sort of crippling in a way.
Like blue collar debt, basically.
Yeah. What it costs, basically, at the end of the day, all these years later, with how music sort of went, and my back catalog just kind of doesn't sell anymore. But I was like going the career artist route in my head, whatever I had going. So I just found that at the end, I was like, I sort of paid to play by a couple grands, too many grands. But anyway, interest from that debt started to sort of stifle me, as a creative, trying to do my thing. So basically, long story short, one of the guys who angel funded Napster, believe it or not, is a friend of mine. He owned an awesome studio and mixed one of the Subtle albums that I did. He started a company that he sold to Viacom, and he was like, yo, I need a sound guy. We're doing video games. And I was like, I think I can do that. So I took this crazy fucking gig, and the only thing I'd done before that is I overdubbed all of Conan the Destroyer, the one with Will Chamberlain and Grace Jones, and that was just for fun. And I redid all the music and shit. So based on that home experiment, I was like, fuck it, I'll do this shit. So I ended up making all this crazy, shitty. It was, I learned so much, but the work was sort of torturous. I did everything from SpongeBob to like Jersey Shore, Facebook game, like all kinds of crap. But anyway, I learned the wares, and then I met, through Venus Patrol and Vlambeer, I met the whole independent video game scene. And as that job tapered and I paid off all my debts, I sort of found myself deeply inspired by what independent video games have become. And then the fact that, like, coming up as a kid in the 80s, like, I thought all video games were made in a 20-story building by a bunch of people in Japan. Now, that does sound terrible and racist and small-minded, but I just knew no better, as far as I was concerned. So once I started to learn that there's all these humans, a lot like indie music, where we're around the world in small pods making these interesting games that are pretty high art, some of them are just fun. And then I just got connected with these dudes, and it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, the circle I was meant to be in, where everyone's incredibly motivated and there's no like slacking, and I do all the sound and audio, someone else does all the programming, someone else does all the art. and we just sort of collaborate and make worlds. So then I've done a ton of indie games. So I just did Enter the Gungeon, which kind of blew up low key on Steam and PlayStation, and then Gang Beasts is another game that looks to be really awesome and has a great indie following. That's coming out later this year. So, and then I'm working on a bunch of other shit. So, but what's interesting is like Devolver, the publisher that I work with, they did like Hotline Miami and a bunch of the games that I did, including Enter the Gungeon. They're like, it's funny that Revolver, which was the indie distributor that first put out Anticon all these years ago and a bunch of other great labels in the States, where it's just kind of like a bunch of cool human beings doing right by independent artists, and everyone's the cup runneth over, unlike in music. So I think that, there's still a ton of piracy, and when you have a hit game, it's pirated on day one, but it doesn't crush everyone's. It's just a different scheme altogether. And there's something about the scene in general that is, I don't know, it's a little more positive, would be the corniest but most correct way to state it, really, than the music scene,
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's always weird to have your words come back to you, but I think I saw you say, like, in an interview, 2008, I think you were talking about, like, the hair meddling of rap. Does that sound familiar? It's something you
yeah, very much.
So, yeah, I mean, that's funny because, like, the way I kind of explain to people who don't pay close attention to video games, kind of like, what you would consider maybe corporate games or sort of the big budget AAA games, kind of like, the way I explain it is like, basically it's Guns N' Roses and November Rain, the single is coming out every month. Yeah.
It's Guns and Guns. Really, the top tier. The top tier is like, so when you go to like PAX, which is the players conference, it is by far the coolest one to be at and show a game. Everyone wants to be there for their own reasons. But the second I first got to one, immediately I started to like judge, and I was like, "Oh, these fucking wannabe soldier dudes," and because everyone is there for some SOCOM-ish Call of Duty type game. But then you quickly realize that it is because business is so booming on that level that we even have people that eventually like aren't sated with those sort of games, and they find independent games with a little more heart and stuff. So basically, like, all fruit falls from this giant soldier tree, and it's created a really like booming industry, and there's all these people constantly getting into it in all these casual ways and more in-depth ways, and like it's interesting. So like, yeah, when you first see AAA, all you think of is these sort of online war games or MOBA games, being an elf forever shit. But I think that, it's like, and those people, like, a lot of motherfuckers just love that. Like, you can't take nobody's joy from them, be it good for the body or not. But they, like, the indie games and that scene altogether are, like, thriving now, too. And a lot of it is just because there's so many more people into video games now, that you can have a successful indie title that sells 1 million copies, but it's still, by all intents and purposes, underground. You know what I mean? And,
well, on the flip of that, I mean, can you talk a little bit about the hair meddling of rap? I mean, like, what's the correlate on the rap side of the aisle?
Well, so what happens is, like, right now, I mean, I guess I used to say hair metal, but now these days, however many years after I said that, it's really just like enter the era of the capitalist, like car salesman rap. Like everything is is like an itemized list of what they are going to purchase soon or have purchased recently, and it's like this. So what that creates is a sameness. So what I meant by the hair metal thing is you have like this sort of, and it's interesting, too, because I've seen a bit of more developing of what I originally was cueing in on hair metal, but it's partially about just the look of a rapper. Like, it used to be like all kinds of motherfuckers could rap, but now, like, you just got to have tattoos. There's this sort of, like, it's interesting. Like, it's like you prepackage, you get, you sort of like, you get what you pay for. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are just paying for the surface. And I think that as music has become less album-centric, more song-centric, more on the go, more streamified, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it starts to occupy a different space, possibly a more casual accoutrement type space in people's lives, you know, and so that sort of reflects in the commitment of some of the artists. And I think you have this sort of sameness of content. So, like, I love Migos, and there's all this shit that I love, but, like, if I were to sing that shit to myself, I sort of feel like my Jewish mom, like, you know, like just talking about the quality of my linens and like, oh, the thread count, and then have you seen the new truck? You know, it's like, I have the new truck, and this whole shit is like, you know, it's what it is, but it's just something that's happening, you know. And I think that in hair metal, you had a very similar thing where it was kind of like about vague music, always about what a woman's wearing and what a guy's thinking. It's like, I was, you know, smoking by the bar, and then like there's something about she's got legs like a road, you know. It's like, and the shit is just like really, like whatever that is. It was very samey in that regard, and now a lot of rap that has moved from what, you know, like it's just kind of about the show, you know. You don't want to hear. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I mean, like, so you mentioned you knew someone involved with Napster. I mean, obviously from some of my background, obviously your background, you can speak to this, but like, you know, is there any remorse or regret on the part of people who were involved with Napster as far as just like, what it's done to music and its role?
Well, you know what though, man? That shit was coming, man. It was coming no matter what. Like if it wasn't, it's like, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, MP3s are pretty old, and they're already like, who downloads an MP3 now, you know?
No, it's true. And also too, like, you know how there's like 5 kinds of vitamin water? You just like the one you like. Or there's 4 different Gatorades. Like, somebody was coming to Napster all of that shit within the next 18 months. So I don't think that, well, I don't know if people feel remorse or not, but, you know, I think that really though, with that kind of stuff, you know, it's like, it becomes like fucking macro social shit where you're actually just, you know, it takes a village, man. Everybody went to that. Everybody was like, you know, songs can be worth no more than $1, and most of the time they're free. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and most other art, because I can labor over a motherfucking painting or a human being who's far more articulate in that genre. Illustrating, they make a painting. They spend 6 months. I spend 6 months on a song. The maximum I can charge for my song is $1 human dollar. When you sort of get into that parameter, and there's sort of like share piracy, whatever you want to positively, negatively state it, realistically state it, there's just, I don't know, there's not going to be a future in that. Like, you show that to any old man at a table in the present or the past, and they'll be like, this ain't good business, son. You know, and you'll be like, oh, right, totally. It's just like, but I think that since the music industry is scrambling so hard to still be what it is to people, they're just going to take what they can get, right? So for me, in doing independent music, and this is the nice thing, is like independent games doesn't have this like, you know, I had like after all my years doing music, I kind of was built like a hostage. Like I had like Jesus body, like someone who doesn't really eat right. Not Jesus for all the wrong reasons body. So, you know, you're just like, and I even mean mentally or emotionally, you know, like you think scant, and you're like, you know, if you really work hard, some of my contemporaries and peers, they did okay. Is okay a term? But, you know, it was like they did really well, but same for them when I sit and think flexibly about the future, like what all these dudes do. Like, you can't be a cool, happening rapper at 47. That ain't gonna fly.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You're not Johnny Cash. We weren't sold that market. So now, also there's ageism and all this other shit, but that's always going on in all genres where you like, rap though has, I don't know, maybe it goes on in video games. I can't really speak for it, but rap has serious issues with its forefathers, and it does not take care of them. So you have people like Kool Herc and these motherfuckers in that Macklemore video acting like they're his backup singers. Like, that is so deeply disgraceful when those guys aren't, like, they're not in the Hall of Fame. There's no hit station for rap. I mean, there sort of is, but not the way that rock is gilded, or you have like hard rap cafe. I would love to go to a hard rap cafe. Actually.
I would go to a hard rap cafe.
Me too, any day. But like, let's say you have Hard Rap Cafe and like, it's not just NWA there. You have like fucking Ghetto Boys and you have Gangstar and you have, Treacherous 3 and fucking Dickhead 6, whatever. But you have like this like, we don't have that homage and that sort of lineage and shit. So like, it's a weird one. And then that mixed with back catalog, I think that, in the future, back catalog might become incredibly in. People might really be into purchasing on iTunes. You never know what's going to happen. Things have a minor resurgence, but nothing will restore to former glory. That is not how the world works. So I'm not speaking stupidly. I'm just speaking realistically. Something good might happen the same way that vinyl can still float a small boat. But I think that as that develops, you're going to start to see the shelf life of new, hot, tatted up rapper Deluxe Man, right? Super new MMA rap guy. He's going to come onto the scene. He's going to burn brighter and shorter than ever. So I think that's what you're sort of guaranteed to see. And if we're all lucky, you might see people break through like Kendrick and become a quality artist quickly so that they are. But if you become a quality artist quickly, but you're not big enough, you will not go very far. So he sort of has the luxury of hitting that higher shelf of interest so that he can be himself and still attract listeners and success and shit, right? So there's other examples of that too. And then, but most rappers who care for the craft of it and stuff, they're not long for the spotlight. There's not many of those guys.
Let me ask you this. I mean, this is one of the things I started to wonder about. I think it was maybe like December, November last year where I started to feel this way. So you may disagree with this notion, but I mean, do you feel like has mainstream rap, has it gotten less violent than it has been?
I don't know.
It's hard to gauge.
It's still like, you listen to like popular rap, it's pretty, I'm going to put this fucking metal on you. I'm drumming, I'm Philip Drummond. Here comes the drum, this little drummer boy, hammers from the sky. Like it's raining hammers. I think that there's still a lot of like, that's the ultimate line in the sand for rap that they can't like think about. Like rap is not like Christian or something where it's like, I'll haunt your Holy Ghost forever. Like that's not the ultimate threat. So the ultimate threat is still like friends with weapons. So I think it's still pretty much there. I think that, the most violent rap was when people first started going there with that shit. I mean, like a lot of these, I don't know, a lot of groups are pretty gun bar-y. There's a lot of gun bars. If I think now pretty openly about all the modern rap that I've been checking out lately, it's pretty. Yeah. It's not like it's anything sans gun bars, Do you think it's like keeping pace with mainstream corporate video games? Like is what I mean? Has one slowed down on its fixation on violence, or are they pretty much neck and neck? What's interesting is I will say that like we look to the whole world right now to like clean up its attitude and consciousness with respect to gun ownership, but we don't say it at all about rap. We're just letting them be like, they're not the same people as us. There's a lot of that with rap though. I see that, a lot of that, like, let the rappers be crazy. Pitchfork does it. Everybody does it. It's like, they'll have one bar for the universe and another bar for popular rappers. They're like, it's a rude, fucked up sort of diminutive shit that the world likes to do, where, I think it's, it's like, it's everybody's lifestyle. Sure, there's a lot of guns around, a lot of self-protection, but I think when you see like all these dudes in like a rented home with 1 million Tech 9s and shit, like that's you with all your jewelry. Let's be honest. You like to shop. Let's be fucking honest, right? You are not, it's not like you live in a video game and last week you had waves of CIA guys hitting the house, and you actually ran out of bullets. So now, this week, you got extra M16 so you won't run out of bullets. It's just not how shit's working. You know, I think that it's like, you know, it's just adorning the lifestyle and like, you know, the same way the tattoos validate possible prison internment, weapon ownership,
loyalties, yeah.
You know, like weaponry validates possible vengeance and retaliation and, you know, war, ready for warness. That I just think that a lot of these cats, most of them are just ready to get faded and record. But what happens is all this other stuff, you know. So I think, but that said too, man, you know, a lot of the modern drill shit, these dudes are actually making music about, you know, that lifestyle, and they're quite literally living that lifestyle, and that's a whole nother ballgame. You know, they can have that, and they can make that, and that's valid. But like I think the thing about, it's like when it catches on, like hair metal, and you just have the proliferation of people think, and this has always been the case. This is not new, and this will not go away. But like a kid in Ohio starts to write his first rap, and he's trying to rhyme with the word trigger, you know, or that rhymes with the N word. That wasn't intentional. Whatever it is, pistol or something, you know what I'm saying? But he's like centered around it. He's like, this rap has got to start with a self-defense weapon, and ninja stars are corny, so I'm going with some kind of gun, you know. So I think and that is like how you start to write a rap. That's what you think raps are about, you know. And it took, like, when I taught kids to freestyle in Oakland, and they were like 14 to 21, was the oldest kid. The first thing that I saw them learn casually was they can use any word in their brain, not just the core vowel sounds surrounding latent rap activity, as one would suppose it to exist in their mind, you know. So like, they can sort of get off of buzzwords, you know, and like use the word trapezoid. You're going to get yourself into some punishment trying to rhyme with trapezoid, but you know, there's stuff out there, and they basically would just start pulling things, phrases and other rhyme words, and it would start to, you still have to not sound like a living book when you say shit that isn't rap, but it's like all things are permissible, you know. I think in that, we're just in a
I mean, I think, like, you know, violence in rap, I mean, it kind of started, you know, from a real place, sort of talking about, you know, what people were seeing. I don't know. I mean, can you contrast that against like video game violence? I mean, is there a difference? I mean, because people weren't rapping about like jumping on, you know, turtles' heads.
Think about like Ice Cube, right? And you have this shit where, you know, like right now NWA is the highlight, but everyone on the scene and those guys know that, you know, a lot of it was fiction. You know, it was projecting. So these guys are like that dude Stitches or whatever, the white dude who got all the tattoos and everybody keeps beating him up and shit. Like, you know, what the fuck, man? So basically, and Biggie Smalls did that willingly. He went from being a good rapper to, and he, you know, Junior Mafia, and I was around on the rap scene, like Junior Mafia and they started Big Willie rap, and that was really the foot in the door of the capitalist sort of shopping rap, Sky Mall rap, you know?
Yeah.
Like, where you're just listing the things around you in a clever way, you know, brand names first, you know, and so I think that that sort of came, but anyway, the same thing with violent rap, that sort of wasn't always in rap. Early rap, like the message, the earliest rap is about being it's about being creative and positive, and violent rap was always sort of there, but once it got so popular, you know, it'll never go away. But there was all kinds of raps that didn't take like that. There was happy rap, and there was there was horrorcore that really didn't do well. You know what I mean? So like, they didn't even want that. They wanted like urban violence. Sounds like maybe you did do it. You know, reasonable enough. You can't be like, yesterday I shot 100 cops. That used to happen all the time, and it doesn't really happen anymore. Now it's like very literal.
Yeah.
You know, So I think, and then with video games, they sell you, they have like disbelief on their side, so they sell you the kind of firefight you want to be in. You want to be dropped into Fallujah for $9.99. We'll fucking do it, you know. And they're all about that shit. And I think that all of these, and that's the same shit though that Biggie Smalls picked up on with Big Willie rap. He was like, these guys just want to be at a Neiman Marcus and act like everything's half off, you know. And so I think it's like this. They want diamonds in their eggs. You know, and I think you can fucking just extrapolate. So they just sell you a slot that they fit themselves into that you can then, by design, think about, you know. And I think that violence and, like, ballin' have become two of the mainstays, you know. Like, when I got into rap, the one that I was the most sold on, for whatever reason, was being, like, a lyrical, Afrocentric, interesting guy. Like, I was very sold on X-Clan and De La and Kool Keith. He wasn't really Afrocentric, but he was off kilter and, like, more unique. You know, it's just what people are drawn to, you know, but that's, like, that's the way of the world. So I think you have, right now, I think the games thing, let's see, but yes, definitely. The presupposed, like, you know, they're like, these are the kind of fights people want to get in. These are the kind of, they're definitely doing that. They're projecting, they're sort of taking into account where everyone would like to see themselves, and they're creating that for people with in-game assets. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then with rap, it's generally with the video and the lyric.
What about like sexism and misogyny in video games and rap? I mean, how do you perceive them being different or similar?
You know what? So, like, I see, like, racism and sexism, completely different things, but they sort of, like, what's that shit about? Like, you know, I don't even know if I'm remembering Groundhog Day correctly, but anyway, like, you know, it's like something doesn't come out of its hole if you're watching it. You know what I mean?
So, watch pot doesn't boil.
Pot doesn't boil. A watch pot doesn't N-bomb unnecessarily or be overtly sexist and put everything in a battle bikini and give it triple E-size breasts. Like, if now there's more women present in these games that had barriers in the industry for women to go further in games, there were all kinds of real barriers, and then there was just not enough women. Over time, there was a slower curve, women getting into games, women getting into making games, women getting into the industry. You know, it's always been, like, male-saturated, like any early industry. Too many dicks in the pot, for sure. And rap, of course, sadly, has the exact same thing. And rap, you have a lot of stuff where most of the women that have been successful in rap, sadly, are male posturing. So, like, most of the women I encountered on the battle scene and the ciphers were kind of like she-dick, you know, like they were like really fucking putting it on you. Like, there wasn't much room in rap in the 90s and before that to, like, express yourself as a woman, you know. So, like, or for that same token, like, if you were gay, you had to speak rap lingo. Not that being gay makes you know another lingo, but there's probably some stuff you're not including about how you're feeling. You know what I'm saying? And your unique take. When you're different than everyone else there, you have a unique take. And you tend to hear from minorities in rap, which are not the minorities in the world, at least when I came up, sort of reverse minority in some of that way. You have some of the same. It's harder to speak for yourself, and it's harder to speak uniquely. So, but now there's gay rappers doing amazing and being themselves, and there's more women. I still am waiting for, like, the awesome woman rapper who is not trying to stand where men stand. All men have stood before her, but stand where she should. You know, like, it's a whole other platform of, like, what women can contribute, I think, to everything. And, like, rap is one of those things where, you know how, like, there's that terrible stigma with people about, like, the NBA and the WNBA. Like, that's not basketball, that's girl basketball. It's like the concept of a girl push-up or something. That rap has that so bad, you know, and it's sad. And so, like, only over time and undeniable awesome examples of kick-ass women doing them can we thwart and turn that clock back a little, or just make room for that other shit. But I think that in games, same exact thing, except women don't have to, like, women are just, well, actually, it's so different. Women are just abused, man, when they're not around. So you got a bunch of dudes, the early NWA music, which they left out of that movie, which I loved, was the intense sexism. They started bitch, too. They didn't just start.
I just saw that movie. Yeah, they cut out a lot of...
they didn't throw in any of the beating on women.
I was going to say, they made some specific choices of what to exclude, yeah.
Yeah, and like automobile, like all these like dick-sucking interludes. They started all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, treat them like a prostitute vibe, like all of that. So that is like, again, definitely no ladies in the room when that was getting penned and laid down. And I think the same goes for these video games where, for whatever reason, a woman goes into battle with cleavage showing. I don't know about you, but when you're like a guy in Call of Duty, you have like 6 flak jackets and a bulletproof eye goggle. And then when you're a woman, you have your breast out and your midriff exposed. You know what I'm saying? And that shit is like, it's like guys are sitting there and they're like, what they're saying in the room is, she doesn't look ready for battle enough yet. So they take off her midriff and show cleavage, and then they're like, she's ready for battle. But really they're just saying, she doesn't look hot enough yet. Okay, now she's hot and we can battle. So you have this sort of, mass marginalization of women. And then occasionally in rap you had songs like Dear Mama, where it's like, yo, my mom is the only. And there's even lines in those songs where like, all the other hoes are just bitches, but you're my mom. You're the good hoe. It's like you still, like, and that shit is never going away. And I think in games now, there's a huge movement, and it's happening, and it's taking more traction because, like, the indie games community is, I think, a little bit more accountable for their humanity, and I think that's a good thing, and not on every level, and I wouldn't take that general statement all the way up to the top of AAA-dom, because there's all that Gamergate shit and everything. Like, I really don't speak for everyone on that, but I do think they, in general, a little more in touch with their humanity, the people who are responsible for game creation and content creation, right? They're reading this shit, they're online, they're seeing Twitter, and they're having a visceral response to it. Whereas I think, with rap and modern music and all the people who make it, it's never really been music's thing to, that's how you can be Marilyn Manson. You're like, I don't care if I said fuck a rat and eat a dead chicken. I'm Marilyn Manson. Let me be me. You know what I mean? So it's like, that whole thing, which is important for art and breaking through stereotypes and genres, like the standards between the two industries are not identical in that regard. It's like kind of, a little different.
But there's like a similar baseline bullshit, right? And like the attitude of Gamergate, the whole like, these games are for us, they're not for you. I mean, there's a similar energy. Maybe you can speak to that in rap of like, this isn't for white people. Do you feel like that?
Well, sure.
I mean, not agreeing
with
those conclusions. Yeah.
That went away real quick. Actually, and it's like, that is not. Okay, so let's see. If we follow that train of thought, we would say, yes, early rap, late 80s, early 90s, it was like, hey, white people can like this, but it's not for them and it's not by them.
Right.
We're rap, we're expressing ourselves, yada, yada, right? You fast forward 1,000 years later, whatever years later, and now you go to a concert, the only black guy's on stage.
Yep.
And his DJ is some other denomination, and it's not necessarily about coming from black folks to black folks. There is still music that does that, and that is still a part of hip-hop, but that is, of course, not what the core of it is. Whereas, like, classical music is kept it real as fuck. That shit is by old white people for old white people. And it's like, it's like they're spitting into their own penis. That's terrible.
Well, yeah,
but anyway, peeing in their own mouth.
You wouldn't be educated enough to understand it and appreciate it, basically. Right.
So, but I think that. Sorry, I lost my train. So what were we talking about right before that? We were talking about. the
We're talking
connection.
about classical music. You just said you were spitting on penis.
That's the classical thing made me go off track. We were talking about rap being made. But we were talking about not being for white people, and so the logic would be
right.
that all these years later, so rap is made by a certain group of people, certain neighborhoods, localities in the United States of America, and by them, for them, it gets popular, it goes outward. 30 years later, it's all white folks. So if video games, like, it's weird. They're saying it's just for them, but now there's all these. I mean, I guess it's sort of similar. You just can't. Lots of people like matzah now too. Jews are cool with it. Like shit gets out of your hand. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers like tacos. Regional arts, crafts, and expressions sometimes go big, and all sorts of people get into them. Gamergate was saying that, like, 50 years later and $700 billion in marketing later, that this is white penises only. And that is what's really fucked up. Because when you run billboards everywhere, like in fucking urinals and on city buses and in the sky and on the internet about your new video games, but it's only for, that's just fucked up. So when you have insiders actually going against all the capitalist and marketing-based maneuvers they make to exploit their works, that's a horrible, horrible, they should all be burned at the stake for that, But I think that in reality, though, you don't really have this thing where, like, now in rap, like, it just doesn't get talked about that much, that it's so big. And when you're a huge rapper, it's like all kinds of people buying your music. It's like, that's sort of that topic and that guilt has sort of left the song format, and then, but its reality is true and living and present. But when you look at games, it's not like Call of Duty is 95% female players or something, which would be interesting. If that happened, then it would, I don't know, maybe then it would be a total moot point. But I think that the reason that these dickheads could be so brashly dickheaded about Gamergate and being sexist and being so, like, boldly sexist in this day and age, I guess that's because they still just have mostly men around them or something, or all that money they make, women wouldn't affect it if they all left the room anyway. And they must have a logic that keeps them on path with saying those horrible things and projecting those horrible things onto people. But I think that so I guess in that way, like, you don't really see that. I can't see, it'd be awesome if Kanye, he talks a little bit about that. It'd be awesome if Kanye just did this white shaming song, express white shame. Like, he tries, he'll tweet at it, or he'll nibble at it a little bit, but people don't really. And it's good because that's terrible. I'm glad that's not really happening, because the Gamergate shit was deeply embarrassing, and, like, people that, like, anyone of the lukewarm to mildly educated variety really needs to put the sexist, racist card down. It's just inflexible and inappropriate, I don't know. But it's interesting. It still seems to pop up all big and in front of everyone.
You think, I don't want to paint it like, you're calling for the industry to do X or Y, but I'll just tell you part of what struck me about, when that was going down was like, no one said nothing. No one in the industry said anything. Everyone just kind of looked the other way while, like, it sort of made me wonder, like, is the industry, like, afraid of its own audience that it built up? I mean, do you ever felt like that?
Gamergate? Well, the Gamergate thing is, like, to be honest, man, a lot of my friends got doxxed, and a lot of mine did too. And the reality is that, like, that's some rap-ass shit. That shit is horrible, dude. Having your soch be in front of your webpage, like, all that shit is like those dudes, they pulled a Republican and they fought really dirty. They fought dirtier than anyone who is trying to clean up the fighting business. So you have all these people on the whatever side it is, the positive, anti-sexist side of Gamergate. And they're just trying to clean the place up a bit. And then these guys come in fighting double dirty and actually, like, it's the equivalent of, like, shooting at your home in rap. You know what I mean? It's like they didn't kill your life, but they threatened 90% of your safety, right? For the duration of the doxing, for the duration of the drive-buying or whatever, you know, shooting up where you rest. And I think that that's crazy dark. That shit is like, and of course, nice people on the other end don't dox them back. It's fucked up, man. The world is like, you know, like still when it comes to it, low blows, you know, if you can execute them, they get executed, you know, and I think that, I'm not sure what that whole, it's pretty embarrassing all the way around to like have retaliation. It just shows how stupid they are.